Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for being here. I feel so honored and blessed. I'm a huge fan of yours, and we both love the similar thing, which is makeup and beauty and how it makes us feel. So thank you for joining the show and to share your experience with us today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. It's a joy to be here and just have a great catch up with you and chat about, the journey.
Yeah. Well, let's just, I had this immediate connection to you when we first met from a distance in the same platform. And I thought, oh, I've got to know this woman. You just had a brilliance about you. And of course, I'm romanced by the great accent that you have to me. And because I think that makeup and beauty is just like being a little girl, and it really gives you this artistic and playful feeling. I was really inspired by you as well with what you do. So I would love, for our audience purposes, you to just introduce yourself and share with us who you work with and what you do to support your audience.
Thank you. And likewise, I really appreciate that. But for me, just to fully dive in, I am a global makeup artist of 17 years. So my background is very artistic, beauty led. I'm also a mentor. So I've kind of combined these two loves, which ultimately, whilst one is more in business and one is in beauty, I really focus front and center in everything that I do into really helping women be better versions of themselves, to really, own their identity, own their greatness, step into that in however it looks for them, completely authentically and uniquely, and just to really create lives that they are proud of, that allows them to reach their full potential, both internally and externally.
I love that. I think that's something that women struggle with often, is being proud of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I think worthiness is a very common thing that comes up for so many of us, is, who am I to, be out there and, look a certain way and feel a certain way and do all of the things that I'm dreaming of, because we all have dreams, we all have aspirations, but it's really about feeling empowered and courageous and confident enough to really go for it. And that's where I really show up to serve my audience and, empower my clients.
I love that. So when you were, with all your experience in the makeup and beauty, what is it that you saw that really drew you to working with women in the way that you do?
Honestly, and I think that this is not usually an expected answer, but it was the fact that there are so many flaws in the beauty industry. And so I've really made it a personal commitment, as well as a professional commitment, to really start, doing my bit to create change in my industry, and really have a voice that empowers women to own their unique identity and not feel like they have to conform to what society tells them beauty looks like, or how they have to be, or how they have to act or behave, or what they have to want and how they have to show up and how they have to look in order to be accepted by society, but rather actually step into their greatness, appreciating all that is unique about them, and being authentic about who they want to show up as in the world and what that means for them, and to do it with power and pride and confidence and absolute joy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So it's like you see this flaw that, where there's this image in the beauty world, that you have to be a certain thing, but it's almost like I found in the messiness that is so many gems of power for women. I mean, it's like when you're giving birth, I mean, both of us are mothers, and when you're giving birth, there's nothing beautiful about the way you look in so many ways. But at the same time, you are birthing this human life into the world and going through such pains and emotional changes and body changes, and and how we don't think that's beauty. But then when you really look at it, like I've been witness to other women having babies, and I'm just like, whoa, I feel like I was just in the presence of like God or something. Like it's the most amazing experience. So I think that we often forget as women how beautiful that the messiness or that the pain or that the birthing process of anything, whether it's your creativity or whether it's your body changes and you're not the size whatever, that is so much beauty in that too.
Yeah, it's actually, the beauty is in the realness. And what's really interesting about the way I certainly feel the beauty industry has been broken for so long is that we're always given the impression that we have to strive for this idea of perfection that we actually in our logical minds know to be completely unrealistic. So it's actually about flipping that on its head and really showing up in a way that is real and is authentic, and really like celebrating the fact that that is real beauty, and that you don't have to conform to what society is telling you you need to be to look like, and really step into being whoever you want to be, which is your real self, which is being authentic, and actually allowing that to be celebrated. And it takes guts. It definitely takes courage, to be that person that steps out and says, I don't feel like I need to have all of the things and do all of the things. And I think that tends to be quite controversial coming from a makeup artist. Then someone asked me not that long ago, earlier this year, they were like, well, have you ever considered that you might be part of the problem and not the solution? And I was like, it was such a controversial question, but also I was so welcome, because it was an opportunity for me to really clarify, like, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing and the reason why I love makeup and how the two can actually gel together is that makeup can be used as a celebration, as a form of exploration, as a form of expression. And like you said, the playfulness, the fun that's in that, rather than feeling like it's a tool that you have to have in order to be perceived a certain way. So it's really the intention behind it.
I love that you said that way. I mean, you said about courage, and I really would like to, pause on that and talk about that, because so often, I've been, we're both coaches. So I was mentoring some women in a group who were becoming sales people. And I was telling them, as I was listening to one of the women's calls, she was being nice. Like, I just want to be nice. And I go, well, what if you trade in that niceness for just kindness? And kindness says the truth. And because niceness puts like this facade, and it actually takes courage. I heard this from another Brooke that I love so much, which is Brooke Castillo, where she said, courage doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be courageous, but it's necessary. If you want to do something that is authentic and true in the world, with yourself, that you can live with yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm showing up, I'm courageous. It feels scary or it feels uncomfortable, but it's what is needed in the world. And that is a totally different narrative than to say, like, nice, I'll put on the pretty face, just be a good little girl, just say the things we want you to say and put a smile on, I don't care, and fake it in any avenue that we go through.
Yeah. And it's a really powerful message, because, yes, that courage, you have to be scared in order to be courageous, first and foremost. So it's like recognizing that that's okay, but also actually going through the motions of that and having that bravery and putting yourself out there eventually is so incredibly rewarding. And it's rewarding because you went through the discomfort in order to get there.
Absolutely. So we talked about, before we started the camera, how a lot has changed over the course of the last 2 years for you. And, I wanted to be authentic and brave in this as we did a brief discussion about, like we look at someone in their success and we think, oh, they just got it like that. But the
Keep
authenticity,
missing that concept.
yeah, that would be a great concept, just to bring it up. But to talk about like that process of like the downs of business and that true and authentic doing, knowing that is going to be there, because oftentimes, and I know I can be guilty of this too, I just want to quit. When the hard stuff happens, I just want to go like, put my hands up, I quit. And so I know you've gone through your own struggles. So I'm just curious from, that authentic perspective of like, what has been the downs that have actually made you successful? Because I think that's an important narrative to talk about too.
Yeah, and I think it's conversation that's actually not had enough. Like you said, I think it's very easy to have this perception of like, she woke up and all of a sudden she was successful. She clicked her fingers and all of a sudden, like, poof, the success was there. Yeah. And it's, this is the thing with social media very much, is like, you see what people want you to see. But the truth behind closed doors is, in order for you to build a life that you are, and a business that you are truly proud of and is really successful, it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of grit. And those are the things that aren't talked so much about. And what's been a massive part of my learning process is actually the discomfort, the fear, the challenge, that has actually really allowed me to step into my greatness and really own it as a businesswoman and a mother, let's face it, because they are such, my girls are such a massive driving force for me being successful and showing up and, doing what I do, because I want to inspire the next generation to not feel like they have to conform with these beauty ideals. And, as the mother of a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old, I don't want them to grow up thinking they have to dress a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way, say the right things in order to be accepted. I'm like, hell no, be who you want to be and go and shine in the world in a way that feels completely authentic to who you are. So, for me, in terms of, going back to the challenge in my journey, it's been really about, first and foremost, deciding what I want my life to look like, which sounds super simplistic, but there has been, a couple of occasions where I really had to take stock and say, am I reaching my fullest potential? And, to be totally transparent, I have, the most transformative moments in my life have been, a day where I woke up and I was like, I've had enough of my own BS. I've been so caught up in fear and limitation for such a long time. It's actually more painful for me to stay here than it is for me to challenge the discomfort and the fear and, really free myself once and for all. I think that's definitely courageous. It certainly felt courageous at the time. And, to really dive into, tangibly what that actually looked like, for me, it was letting go of people, it was letting go of beliefs, it was letting go of relationships, like things that have been ingrained in me for a really, really long time. And it's almost like you have to shed this old skin in order to step into this new identity. And the reality is, when you start building success for yourself, you really do have to create a new personality for yourself, because whether you are a business owner or not, the reality is really stepping into your greatness allows you to let go of the things that no longer serve you and really choose the beliefs that you want in order to step forward and do it confidently. So, it's about the personal development behind all of it, really, the personal growth, and the challenges that come up with that are the things that ultimately do not align and are not congruent with the person that you really want to become. And for me, that meant letting go of a lot of things, big things in my life. And whilst it's painful and challenging, it's, like we talked about, the courage and really coming out the other side, the reason it feels so wonderful and satisfying is because you overcame that challenge, and it's incredibly rewarding when you actually step up to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I get you. I went through I would say the hardest part for me was when I got a divorce 7.5 years ago. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, I still had 2 young boys at home that stayed with their dad,
Mhm.
and so leaving and moving 300 miles away, those kind of situations as a mother, like, first and foremost, what I've always viewed is it's always in the best is looking at what's in the best is interest of the children
Mhm.
isn't always that mom is there or that mom is, whatever that looks like, because what is in their best interest is what is best for the mom. And when you can stand in your power, like you're talking about, then you can be the example to your
Mhm.
children in a whole new way. And it might look messy and it might look terrible and from the outside. But I think
Yeah.
it comes back to that, like, you can't live your life, number one, for other people and what they're going to think of you. And
Mhm.
number two, if you don't, like you said something like, I had to take a look at what I wanted my life to look like. And you said it sounds so simple, and it is, but it's not easy because
Yes.
we're so ingrained in what we don't like that
Mhm.
how often, I mean, I know you speak to clients, I speak to clients every day, and they're always talking about what they don't want. And then it's like when you get them to shift from what they don't want into their vision, sometimes it's hard because they haven't even spent any brain space on what they really want.
Yeah.
So it's a simple thing, but it's worth it more than ever. And sometimes it means you have to let go of your relationships with your, maybe a husband, maybe a, wife, maybe whatever, that you have to let go of that in order to be who you really are, because a relationship either brings you closer or further apart from who you are. But you have to find that, like you said earlier, like finding that inner strength, that inner you, that
Mhm.
has to come from the inside out.
Yeah, and that fits so it's so true to my experience as well. I mean, one of the moments in my life that really stands out was firstly, I started to build a business whilst being a mom that allowed me to travel the world. It's how I became a global makeup artist. Now, for me as an individual, aside from being a mom, that work fed my soul. Like, I loved doing it. I felt like I was thriving. I was really able to express myself creatively and give the best of myself to my clients. And I was just completely lit up and joyful in doing that work. But it meant that I wasn't entirely present with my kids at that time. And, one of the moments that really stood out for me was, sitting on a beach on one of my down days between photo shoots in Maui, and which, for me, and being from England, is a long way from home. And, getting a phone call from someone that's in my very close circle, just saying to me, like, you really need to question who you are as a mom right now, because, like, how dare you be a mother and travel the world and have a business? It was like the audacity. And I remember being absolutely blown away. And, the question that I really posed in that conversation was, would you feel this way if I was my husband right now and I was the man in the relationship traveling? And the answer I got was, yeah, I'd feel differently. And it really, really pissed me off. I won't lie. And it again goes back to this societal, like, men are the breadwinners, like, mothers need to be at home. And that was the relationship that I was in. Like, there was an expectation for me to do all of the things. Now, don't get me wrong, like, when I'm with my children, which is actually the majority of the time, and this is a joy for me as I've been able to craft a career over the past decade of being an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, is being able to work part-time whilst being a very, very present mother. But it means when I'm working, I'm obviously working, and really having a clear boundary and a work-life balance. But there seemed to be a really strong judgment by some of the people that were in, my close network about you know, you have to be home 24/7, and it's not appropriate for you to be successful and be a mother. And I was, you know, at that point I was like, I'm going to have to be courageous here and just call bullshit on this, because it's not like, that's not okay for me, and neither will I be judged as a bad mother for not being home every single day to, you know, change nappies and have dinner on the table at 5:30. I love being that person, but it's not all that I am.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I go back to, and you so rightly put it, that as a mother, yes, I want to be present. I have such a close, wonderful relationship with my kids, but I also want to inspire them, because, you know, if someone had that conversation with one of my daughters in years to come of like, how dare you as a woman be allowed to have a business and travel the world and be a mother, I'd be absolutely outraged just the same. And so I want to inspire them by being an example, not just like talking the talk, but actually walking the walk of what it means to be a powerful woman, to actually own your potential and step up and be of service in the world in a way that aligns with, you know, the unique talents that we are brought into the world with, and really being confident and joyful about that, whilst being a great mother, if that's what you choose.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't have any, you know, I think there's this in between world now, like you're put down if you have a career and you're put down if you're a stay-at-home mom. Like it should be like, what works for you? Like at some point, you know, we talk about women's choices, whether they get an abortion or whether they do this or, you know, that their bodies are theirs, but what about their choices are theirs as well? And why can't we just honor whatever is best for that woman? Because whatever is best for her, she'll show up in a way with her kids. And it's so difficult for me. I was a stay-at-home mom, and it's so, when my husband decided he wanted to exit the marriage, it was so enlightening for me, because I had been doing, you know, I'd been doing an online business, but I hadn't really made it a total, complete support system for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had to make that shift, it was like, okay, financially, when your financial world is tied to someone else, you have so many limiting choices
Mm-hmm.
as a woman. And nowadays with online businesses and such, there's so much that's possible. I mean, I'm going to be 49 this year, you know? So I've been around before this digital age and I get excited. I'm always telling my girls, you know, I have 3 boys and 2 girls, and I'm always telling them, like, you have so many possibilities. And now, thank goodness, like even my daughter who used to work in in Zappos office is now working from home. Like you have so many possibilities when you can still serve in the world, still show up and still be authentic and do something that lights you up and still be a mom.
Yes.
And that doesn't make you less of a person. Like you said, we're not going to ask men. Like my partner, when he was raising his kids with his wife, he traveled all over. Nobody called him up and said, hey, you're not doing the right thing for your kids. No, they never said that to him. And I don't think we should be judging. And I'm going to say a good percentage of that judgment comes from women, other women telling other women what they should and shouldn't be doing. And there's a lot of shame. And please, ladies, let's hear this. We do not need any more shame. Number one, we are giving way too much to ourselves, and shame is the lowest vibration, the lowest thing you could do to yourself and to another woman. So let's just exit that and have love and joy and honor other women, not from a place of jealousy or, you know, getting back, but of unity and community.
Absolutely. I'm all for the sisterhood. And, you know, it's really getting back to the reality of, let's face it, we're going to be judged either way. So just do you, because the judgment's always going to exist, right? So it's like,
totally,
like, you know, kick it in the F it bucket, as I would say, and like just choose to do it anyway, because the only person that can really like truly empower you and allow you to step up is you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to write that down. Kick it in the epic bucket. I love that.
At the end of the day, like, it goes back to that choice of like, what do you stand for? You know, who do you want to show up as in the world? What are you prepared to do in order to make it happen? And what are you willing to let go of in order to make it happen? Because sometimes it doesn't necessarily take, you know, letting go of a relationship or a person or, you know, something else along those lines. Sometimes it's about like making tweaks and adjustments, but really focusing on leverage and opportunity and the things that will support you in really growing into that person that you want to be.
Absolutely. And being the master of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I call it heart-centered so you can have mind-centered, because if you're always coming from that place of heart set, then it's easier for your mind to go there. But you have to know that you're going to have 50% shit in the world and you're going to have 50% greatness. And you can choose what you choose to focus on, and you can kick the epic bucket with the things that are going to come up, because you are going to have those negative thoughts. You are going to have self-doubt. It's the way it is.
Yeah, we're human at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is called a human mind. It has something that's trying to protect you in there, and all of a sudden it makes you like resist greatness.
Full disclosure though, like the thing that really allowed me to push past those limitations was actually getting the right support in place. So actually working with coaches and mentors that were where I wanted to be, that had learned the lessons, that had gone through the challenges, that were willing to offer me a shortcut, that understood the challenges that I was facing and really supported me and empowered me to get the results that I wanted and shift into the identity of the woman that I wanted to become. And that happened because I believed in myself enough, because I was decisive about what I wanted, because I was willing to do what it took to get there. And to have those, you know, predominantly women ahead of me willing to support me was total game changer. And that's what ultimately led me to becoming a mentor myself, because I recognized that, especially in my industry, there was literally no one willing to help me or had the experience that, you know, both fit my industry and the coaching world, that was able to be the example and had the skill set to really support. So when I went through that process for myself, I was like, I actually feel a duty here to help the other women that are where I was, and actually help them really, you know, step into their potential and own their worth, and, you know, create a life and a business that they love.
That's amazing. And like you said, you knew what you needed to do, but oftentimes, and I've seen this, and I know it's for men and women, but I'm specifically talking about women, is that research is even showing how important, and I know that some women resist investing in themselves, but if you do not, and this is my big flag, my soapbox, get yourself a coach because you deserve it. You deserve it. And have someone walk you through the paces of to get to where, I mean, are they the right fit for you first? I mean, do you feel connection to them? Are they walking their talk? Are they doing what you want to be doing in your life? That's the first and foremost question you ask about them. Can they give you the results that you're looking for, the outcome that you're looking for? And if they can, invest, do whatever it takes. I mean, you and I know, we've talked about this in the past. It's a stretch. We all know it's a stretch.
It's meant to stretch you. It's meant to test you. That's like the beauty of the process. It's about getting uncomfortable to really, as I say, shed that skin and really step up and own it.
Yeah.
Definitely a process, and it definitely takes courage, but that's why it becomes the making of you.
Exactly. So, you know, if you're hiring a coach for a couple $100, you're probably not going to get the outcome that you want. I'm sorry to say. I mean, that's all great and fine to start where you can start, but invest in someone who, like if you're looking at saving your marriage or growing your business or whatever it is, like, what do you want to invest in yourself? Like, here's what I am such an advocate of, and I didn't realize it. And there's a difference between putting yourself in debt and investment, but investing in people like Brooke and I have done, to the coaches that we have hired over the years, and I'm still hiring, that help get you to where you want to go, because you don't know your blind spots. You don't know where things, you just need to hold on to someone once in a while, because we used to be in tribes. We used to be in tribes supporting each other. And then all of a sudden we're singular, and it gets lonely, and it's not, the road isn't as easy. So you can have all the grit, you can have all the commitment to do it, but without a coach next to your side, it's going to take you twice as two times, 3 times, 4 times longer. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's accelerating that and avoiding the pitfalls and actually getting there so much faster. And, when it comes to the investment you're talking about, I think it's absolutely the truth that the investment is relative to the outcome, the result that you get at the end of the day. And it's worth it every time. Like, every time I've done it, every time I've worked with someone, every time I've invested in myself, it's been worth it every single time. And I really continue to communicate that. And again, like you say, like, actually be the person that walks the walk, because it takes courage to step up and do so. And like, really being aware that investing in yourself in any capacity is really about you investing in your future.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to build the future, it's like, and even to have your belief around money. I know that women have the most challenges with their belief around money and wealth. And it's really coming to terms with that and saying, like, I mean, that's the biggest relationship next to myself that I'm working on, and constantly working on, because I know I interviewed this woman once, and she spoke about, it's the longest relationship you'll have next to yourself, because you're always going to need, have a relationship with money. And if you want it to keep flowing into your life, you've got to have a relationship with it that is expansive, that is loving, that, okay, you have a fight once in a while, but make up and move on and let's move forward. Because it's going to be there.
And it's part of that growth process, isn't it? Because it's about us really choosing to like own our power and own our potential, and that's part of it. Going back to like the business side of things, it's like actually identifying who do you want to be, like what level of independence do you want. Like, I think that you and I, Darlene, can definitely relate equally to like what it means to be in a situation where you let go of a relationship, in whatever circumstance that looks for us individually, but actually being in a position where you're like, okay, I'm a business owner, I'm a mother, I'm now a solo mother, and I need to be the breadwinner. And I've got to make, there's no alternative, there's no option for failure. I have to make this work. And what's really funny is, like, for me, in those circumstances in the past, it's like so scary and so uncomfortable, but it actually has given me the best outcomes, because it's thrown me so wildly out of my comfort zone that it's like you have no option but to succeed. You have to make it work. And so you build this grit and you build this muscle for success, and it's that really gets you over the line.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, it doesn't have to take some kind of like massive occasion or some massive discomfort in order for you to go through that process. I really encourage women to go through that process and own it before they enter a shitstorm. It's like, you don't have to experience some monumental, discomfort or problem or circumstance in order for you to like step up and be like, I choose to be awesome. Like, I choose to step out there. I choose to reach my potential. It's about, making the choice before you have to experience something like that, just because you know that you are worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your why. I mean, I think that's so true. And your why doesn't have to be that big. Your why doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm divorced, I have kids, I got to take care of it. But it can be just because I have a vision of something, and that is important to me, and it's mine, and it's, you know, it's like we can say, you know, as mothers, we become a mother and that becomes our identity, or we become a wife and that becomes our identity. No, we can be everything and anything we want to be, or choose. We have to choose into it and then follow through with it.
Yeah.
And then, like a muscle that you build, or when you go work out or you do yoga or whatever, the pose that you do in this world, that doing the hard stuff, this is also something I heard recently from one of my coaches too. Doing the hard stuff makes hard stuff easier.
Yeah.
So whatever you do, it's like resisting it is like resisting, like you're not going to pick up a weight to move your body, or you're not going to get in that yoga pose. It's like, no, go there. You're probably going to be messy in it. It's probably going to be painful to begin with, but you'll get better at the hard stuff. And when you did the hard stuff, it's like the baby is coming and you've got to push it out no matter what, or, you know, you don't have a choice here. So give yourself that ability to like dream of something bigger than yourself, so that you have a why. You don't have to be pushed outside of your comfort zone. You can actually step into outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, and going through the birthing process is such a good analogy for that. But like you said, it's also about actually making the choice and recognizing that you have a choice. And what was really interesting for me and letting go of my relationship and choosing to be a solo mom was really about, you know, I didn't even predict going through that process, but it got to a point in my relationship where I was like, okay, I can either conform to suppressing myself and being the person that this person needs me to be, always knowing that I never reach my potential and that I'm dampening myself in order to make them comfortable, or I let go of that and actually like choose joy and happiness and freedom and inspiration and be that person. And, you know, when you really look at those options, they're not really options. Like, you really have one option, which is to free yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And freedom can be as simple as I always say freedom is as simple as one thought away. You know, like you're the person that keeps yourself locked up. I mean, I've never thought of, when I look at it before, in the past, I was very upset to lose my relationship, my marriage. And now I look back and I'm like, but I wanted to release him to have what he wanted. And I wanted to release myself to go towards what I wanted. And we had just come out of alignment and out of a match. Mm-hmm. And it's not about him being wrong. And that's what I think is another good thing. We don't have to make people wrong in order to end something. We can just say we're not going down the same road. You know, like if you're going down the highway and a car pulls over into goes in a different way, you say, oh, you don't say like, well, that's a bad person because they're not going my way. You say, oh, they're just going on their path and I'm going on mine.
Yeah, they made a different choice.
Yeah. And so it's just about choices, right? It's really that simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. And it's actually the thing that excites me the most in life and business and motherhood and all of it is like, we always have a choice. And that's actually like that I find to be the most empowering thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that. Yeah. And it's so true. You have a choice. You have a choice about who you are and how you show up. And you have a choice about how you transform your life and be whatever you want to be. Like you said, being an amazing, powerful, empowering woman that has a business, and being a mother, and being whatever else you want, an artist, and just a creative being. As women, I always say men are workers, women are creators. And we can choose to work if that's what we want to do, but we can choose more so to create, because it didn't take a lot to create a baby. I mean, for some women, maybe it does, but it's really that belief and that choice to just like know that you have that inner, when you stay in alignment, stay in the focus of what you want, you have that ability to create the life that you want. And it seems so simple, and it is, but it's not the way that you're naturally taught. So as women, we do have a choice, and we can create that community to help us give that choice a life, you know, with ourselves, create that inner joy, that inner strength, that inner belief, and then look for people that help us hold our hand, our friendships, our communities, our mentors and coaches to walk us there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really interesting, and I actually had this conversation with my ex-partner, is like, when even and it relates to the conversation we're having now, and to anyone listening, it's like, when you learn this stuff and when you know it, you can't unlearn it. So then it simply becomes a choice. Like, do I carry on operating the way I've been operating for the past however many years and getting the same result? Or do I choose to empower myself and start living a new life, and then being a new woman, and, you know, reaching that potential and designing a life that actually feels intentional and aligned and authentic and joyful?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it is that once you've stretched, you can't go back, you know, and I can't go back, and you can't go back, and we don't want to go back. We just want to go forward.
Yeah.
And it's, and sometimes that means you have to go step, you know, it's like that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it's always that little navigation, but eventually you do get ahead, at least 1 step. But if you don't ever take the step, and you don't make the choice, and you don't commit to it, and you're not decisive in that, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to stay where you're at.
Yeah,
and
it's building momentum.
Yeah, it does. It does. So any last inspiration that you would love to leave our listeners with, the ladies out there in the world?
Yeah, I think it would be to recognize that you have a choice, and start making decisions that empower you, and worry less about the judgment and the fear, because that will always be there. But choose to empower yourself despite the fear and the judgment.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's really good to bring that woman's choice into this, because it is. It's, are we choosing a better world for ourselves, our children, girl, boy, whatever it is? We as women are true leaders, because we are the birthers of creativity. We are the birthers of what is possible in the world, and we are more open to share it with the whole world. We're not, we don't like try to take and hoard it. We're showing what is possible. So, Brooke, I feel so honored to be in a conversation about what is possible in this world, and the example that you are as a solo mom and a powerful entrepreneur, to show us like how a woman can, I don't like the word balance, but how you can align with what is important in your world, and that it's a choice in that. So that really feels very important and valuable for women to hear today.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it, because like I said, I don't think these conversations are had enough, and I think there's so much value to be had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we're doing this, we're in this together as women. And I feel so honored, and I'm so blessed to be a woman and to have women like you in my life. It really, I've always said that your relationships in your life are a mirror of where you are. And if you drawing in amazing people into your life, then you're doing it right. That's great. You're on the path. So keep going forward.
All about sisterhood, right?
Yeah. And so I'd love to have another conversation with you at a later date. And please feel free to check out Brooke. And Brooke, tell us how our audience can find you if they're interested in working with you and checking out what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is brookeprice.co.uk. And my Instagram handle is @BrookePrice Makeup.
Oh, great. Great. Well, check Brooke Price out, because she is priceless. I'm sure she gets this all the time, but I had to say it.
Thanks, darling.
Thank you.